بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. فما بعد, my brothers and sisters, we hear this ayat in every Jummah khutbah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, which means, O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it is His right. حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. And do not die except in a state of Islam. So, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ, not any way you be like, as it is His right, Jalla Shanu. وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. And do not die except in a state of Islam. Now, as we know, any ayat in the Quran which begins with Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu is an ayah of hukum. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command. And therefore, it must be obeyed. Because it is the duty, it is the essence, it is the purpose, it is the sign of being an abd of Allah, of being a slave of Allah, that we obey Allah. So first point. Second point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatih. Have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it is His right. Now, we must understand the meaning of taqwa. Taqwa is to fear, to displease the one we love the most. Usually it's translated as fear of Allah. Fear Allah as it is His right to be feared. Fear is a negative emotion. You don't love the things you fear. Right? People have all kinds of phobias. So when the person has a phobia of something, they don't love that thing. Some people fear spiders, except Ibrahim. So you can't say I love spiders. You fear them. You don't like spiders. People fear snakes, except me and Ibrahim. So people who fear snakes, they don't love snakes. Right? But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fear that we are talking about is not a fear like this, which is you want to run away from there. I don't want to see this person. Some children fear their teachers. So you ask the child, do you love this teacher? No, I don't love it. Do you obey the teacher? Yes. Why? Because the teacher will, if I don't obey the teacher will punish me. But that obedience is coming out of fear. The problem of obedience which comes out of fear is that the minute the fear is not there, there will be disobedience. So the child will obey the teacher only as long as the teacher is there. If the teacher moves, the child has no commitment to what the teacher represents or what the teacher has told the child to do. The child is obeying the teacher only because he fears the teacher. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where will you run? Where is the escape if somebody wants to escape? So taqwa, second point is fear. Second point is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with regard to the believers, and may Allah ta'ala include us among those who He called the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. Allah said, but the believers are those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. Not just any love. Ashad. Ashad is the superlative form of Shadid. Intihai, ultimate, extreme. Ashad hubba lillah. Their love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is supreme. They love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than they love anyone or anything else. So what is the sign of the believer? That he or she loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than anyone or anything else. Now, the combination of these two things, the combination of fear, which is khashya, and in some cases khawf, and the hubb of Allah. When you combine these two, then you have what is called taqwa. Taqwa is a very unique concept in the Quran, which talks about something which is very, very, very peculiar and particular to the believer, the true believer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because fear as in khawf, even Shaitan, Iblis said in the battle of Badr before he came, he said to the before the battle started, he said to the people of Makkah, the enemy forces, he said, Inni jarul lakum. He said, I am your neighbor, don't worry. I will help you. And then when he saw the Malaika, he said, I see something that you don't see. He said, I am gone from here. Inni akhafullah. He said, I fear Allah. Then if he fears Allah, then why is he disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So just this fear by itself, it doesn't work. We fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are in awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of who Allah is, because we understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We say, this is my Rabb Jalla Jalaluhu. When you understand the power and glory and majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it produces a quality in the heart which is called khashya. It's different from khawf. Khashyatullah. Innama yakhsha Allah min ibadihi al-ulama. Allah said, truly the people who have the most khashyat of Allah from among the ibad, from among the slaves, are the ulama. This doesn't mean somebody who graduated from this university or that jamia. It means the one who has the greatest khashya is an alim, is a true alim. He's not someone who just memorized the Quran or hadith and ulum sharia and fiqh and so on. No. If that is coming without the khashyat, it is not ilm of deen. And it comes. It comes. Iblis was the greatest alim. He was the greatest abid until he disobeyed. Because there is no khashyat. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are saying, I worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but when there is a hukam of Allah, you don't obey. So kya ibadat aap kare bhai? Where is the worship? What ibadat, what worship did you do? Because the one you are worshipping, when he tells you do something, you say, no, this doesn't make sense to me. Ana khayrum minhu, khalaqtani min nar, wa khalaqtahu min teen. I am better than him. You made me from fire, you made him from clay. So effectively you are saying that your hukum is wrong. There is no khashya. This whatever khawf he has, that itself is a lie. Because even if there is khawf, he would obey. He is not obeying. So khashyat is this condition, is this quality in the heart. And that's why Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi, he said that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, is superior to all the human beings and all the believers except the Anbiya. Not because he worshipped more, or because he fought in jihad more, or because he fasted more, or because he gave sadaqah more than anyone else. Not because of this. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu died in his bed. He didn't die shaheed in some battle. He said, yet his position is superior to everybody because of something that settled in his heart. Because of that, Allah gave him the. And that thing which settled in his heart is the khashyat of Allah. So I remind myself and you that this is something we need to focus on and say, do I have khashyat of Allah in my heart? And only I can answer about my heart and you can answer about your heart. It's not about looking at somebody else and saying, अरे उसको देखो उन्हें क्या कर रहा. ये हमारी बहुत बेवकूफ़ी की आदत है. Very, very foolish habit we have, which is that we look at other people. We point fingers at other people. Look at his salah, look at him, look at what he's doing, don't look at anybody, look at the mirror in which you see yourself. and say, what is the state of my khashiyat in my heart? Many ways of testing that for yourself. One small test. Hasan Basri Rahmatullah Alayhi said, I have read 90 times in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that I am responsible for your rizq. So don't fear. Don't fear poverty, don't fear starvation. I am responsible for your rizq. Right? More than 90 times in the Quran. One of those times in Surah Dhariyat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna Allaha huwa ar-razzaqu dhul quwwatil mateen. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is ar-razzaq, and He gives you by His power. La nas'aluka rizqa, nahnu narzuquk. Allah said, I don't ask you to feed me. I don't ask you for rizq. I give you rizq. So Hasan Basri Rahmatullah says, more than 90 times in the Quran I have read this. And only one time I read in the Quran that shaitan ya'idukum al-faqra wa ya'muru bil-fahsha. He frightens you with faqr, which frightens you with poverty, and invites you towards the disobedience of Allah. If you don't do this haram business, your business will collapse. Yeah, in America, they have all these convenience stores along with the gas stations. And that convenience store, they sell everything. They're selling now they're even selling marijuana because they've made marijuana, halal. We have to understand this. Nobody can make what Allah has made haram into halal. You can pass any law you want, it remains haram. And nobody can make haram what Allah has made halal. Your laws don't change the hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they sell that, they sell alcohol, they sell pork, they sell pornographic magazines, they sell cigarettes, everything. And you ask them, the store will shut down. We have to do this. Nobody has to disobey Allah. Please understand this very, very important thing. This thing comes up all the time. Oh, but in my company, in my culture, in my country, in my this, I have to do this, I have to have cocktail parties, I have to attend cocktail parties. I am not drinking, but I have to serve drinks. You do not have to disobey Allah. That is not a excuse in law. Two things. Lack of knowledge is not an excuse in law. It's your job to find out. You can't say, I didn't know. No, didn't know. You have to find out. It's your job to find out. Whether something is halal or halal, haram or halal, it's your job to find out. And the second thing is this issue of saying, I had to know. The malaika will say when they take the soul of the person who continued to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he says, I was helpless, the malaika will say, wide ardullahi wasi'ah. The earth of Allah was wide. Why didn't you make hijrah? Why didn't you go? If this was the case, in this particular case, according to you, you were forced to disobey Allah. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you go to some other place? If you say, in this business, I have no alternative, then this is not a business for you. If in fact this is, first of all, that is not true. Secondly, if it is true, that you say in this business without doing this, मैं यहाँ बोलते क्या कर सकते साहब, बगैर रिश्वत दिए के काम ही नहीं होता, तो वो काम मत करो आप. अगर हकीकतन ये ऐसा है, पहले तो झूठ है, वो आपका नखरा है, that's all excuses, you are trying to take shortcuts. सब होता, मेहनत लगती, उसके पीछे फिरना पड़ता. And I can give you actual examples from the Indian market, where people have chosen to operate in an honest way, and they are doing very well. But let's assume that you are right, that without giving bribes, this business, whichever it is you are in, cannot be done. Then don't do it. Find something else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I will feed you. So Hassan Basri Rahmatullah says, 90 times in the Quran I have read, Allah said, I am responsible. I will help you. I will give you. I will feed you. I don't ask you to feed me, and so on. And Shaitan tells you one time to fear poverty, and the solution to that fear of poverty, to protect yourself from poverty, Shaitan says, disobey Allah. And he says, how amazing it is that you don't believe what Allah told you 90 times and you believe what Shaitan tells you one time. So where is the khashya? Where is the khashya? Huh? So we don't have to go to some spiritual diagnostic center to find out if there is khashya or not. Ask yourself. When a matter comes where we are given two options, there's no force, there's never any force, there's options. One option is to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if I disobey Allah, then there's the shaitan or his agent is showing me some picture of Jannah. Oh, if you disobey Allah, you will get this. If you deceive your brother, you will get this. If you lie about something, you will get this. If you eat up the haqq of your sister, you will get this. If you do a business transaction and then you renege on that, you deceive the person you made a transaction with, you will get this. Right? You buy and sell something which Allah has made haram, you will get this. You deal in interest and you take loans and so on and so forth, then you will get, your business will grow. So this is one option, the shaitan is telling you. And the other option is, I have faith in Allah. Inni tawakkaltu ala Allah. I have tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I will do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me to do. Allah feeds me does not mean I will do nothing and sit there. No. I will make the effort, I will make the best effort that I need to make to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alhamdulillah. But I will not stress myself out, I will not lose sleep, I will not demean myself and do something which is against the waqar of the Muslim. I will not say I have to serve alcohol in this cocktail party, otherwise I will not get promoted. I won't do any of this. Why? Because none of this matters. Allah is the one to give me. These are the tests of khashya. This is the test of khashya. Right? Your word. What is your word worth? हमारे पास जबान दिए बोलते नहीं, क्या मैंने जबान दिए बोले? So once you given your word, period. The ayat in the Quran, which is the longest ayat of the Quran, which is the ayat in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَإِذَا تَدَايَنْتُمْ بِدَيْنٍ إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى, to the end, 15 lines. Where Allah said, when you have a transaction, then write it down and have witnesses. If there is no witness, Allah is the witness, and so on. This does not mean that your word has no importance until you write down. No. If somebody is understanding that, that's a completely wrong understanding. The writing down is for your heirs, it's for the inheritors. For example, if Bobby and I have a agreement, and we are, say for example, we buy a flat or we buy some shop or whatever, and we have this agreement, and this is my share, that's your share, and so on. Now after us, whoever is inheriting, they don't know this transaction. So how do they know? If something is in writing. If there is nothing in writing, and after, say, I die, and then somebody comes, my heirs come and they say to Bobby, this is what, my uncle, my father, whoever, was supposed to get. How do you know? कुछ लिखा हुआ है क्या? नहीं है. नहीं, आपके बाबा मेरे को देना था. नहीं होगा भाई, हम नहीं बोलते नहीं है. मगर सबूत क्या है? That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, write it down. But this does not mean that the agreement has no value unless it is written down. No. The agreement is the agreement the minute you spoke. The biggest dalil of this from the Sunnah is Sulh Hudaybiyah, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Suhail, who was from the Radiallahu anhu, later became Muslim, who was from the Makkans, they came to the conclusion, they came to the agreement on the terms of the contract, the terms of the Sulh, the treaty. And one of those clauses was that if one of your people comes over to us, meaning if one of the disbelievers comes over to Islam, he must be returned. But if one of the Muslims leaves Islam and comes to the Makkans, then they don't have to return him. So it was a very unfair and unequal kind of a clause, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam agreed to that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested. Suhail's son, who had become Muslim, he didn't know that this whole treaty was happening and so on and so on. So he had been imprisoned by his father in Makkah. He managed to break his chains, he managed to escape, and someone told him that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is camped in Hudaybiyah, which is close by, you don't have to go all the way to Medina. So he came there. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, I have come here, I am a Muslim, I have accepted Islam. So I said, give him, return him. Imagine, see that the kind of test. He said, return him. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even went to the extent of saying to him that the treaty has not been written down, it is still being written. He said, I don't care. You gave your word. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam not trying to back out of the treaty, but just to find some way of saving this person who came, a Muslim. He said, no, I don't care. Writing is for the record. You gave your word. As far as I am concerned, the word is what is the primary evidence, is the word. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes. And he said to his son, go with your father. The Sahaba were absolutely flabbergasted. They said, Ya Rasulullah, he is from us, he is a Muslim. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab went to the extent, now he was being taken back to Makkah. Sayyidina Umar went to the extent, radiallahu anhu, of going to him, walking beside him. He said to him, my sword is loose in the scabbard. I have kept it loose in the scabbard. Take my sword, kill these people who are your captors, and escape. He went to that extent. But he said, no, I will not do that. So the point I am making here is that the issue of khashyat in the heart. Allah's hukum, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha haqqa tuqati. May Allah Ta'ala give us the khashya and enable us to have the khashyat to the extent we can never meet the extent, we can never actually have as much as Allah's right, but we can make the effort, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill our hearts with His khashya and to show that khashya in the heart in our speech and actions. Because that's the ultimate test is that. It's not much, oh, mere dil mein itna Allah ka khauf hai. Hai to aapki zaban mein aana, hai to aapke harkaton mein aana. Dil mein Allah ka khauf hai, zaban pe nahi hai, baat mein nahi hai, harkaton mein nahi hai, amal mein nahi hai, to uski koi dalil nahi hai. Right? So the dalil of the condition of the heart is our speech and our action. That's the evidence. And this evidence we have to give for ourselves, because this is what we will be questioned about by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill our hearts with the khashya, with the nur of His khashya and our amal and our aqwal, with the nur of the khashya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to help us to feel His glory and majesty as it is His right. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to illuminate our lives, illuminate our speech and our actions with the nur of His khashya. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyil kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.